Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special meeting of the Kennebunkport Select Board. This is a joint meeting between the Select Board and the Goose Rocks Beach Advisory Committee. I'll be calling our Select Board to order at 6 p.m. I would ask Pam if you could call your group to order.
Yep, I'd like to call the meeting of the Beach Advisory Committee meeting to order at 6 o'clock as well.
Thank you. May we now all rise, please, and pledge allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's meeting is an opportunity for the Select Board to consult with the Beach Advisory Committee on a proposal that the Beach Advisory Committee is going to be presenting tonight to relocate some parking spots in the Goose Rocks Beach BUA parking map. So I will pass the torch over to to Pam. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I'm going to start and then Chaz is going to.
Thank you, and we are here to listen.
Do I need to pick this up? Or
You might need to move it closer. Yeah, just, you can actually take it. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Is that good? Thank you. Thank you for everyone coming tonight. We're pleased to be here to talk about this. We started talking about parking at the Beach Advisory Committee meeting last summer, and we had a parking task force that was Kate Bauer-Burke, Pat Sousa, Wendy Bosley, myself, and John Dykstra, and we did a lot of work looking at some of the issues that we thought the primary one is really the parking on the marsh towards, on Dyke Road between the bridge and Route 9. And then we looked at some other spots that we thought needed some attention, and we made a recommendation in January that was, there were some concerns voiced by the Public Safety Working Group on the Beach Committee. So what we decided to do was really to revisit the subject, and we put together a task force, really ad hoc group that consisted of Tom Adler, who's a neighborhood volunteer, who's worked on the Public Safety Working Group, Chad Caswell, Pat Sousa, and John Dykstra. And I think they've come up with a significant improvement on what we had before, and I think a good compromise on some of the concerns from a safety standpoint that were voiced at the last meeting. And I'm going to really turn it over to Chaz to go through that, but I would like to thank Pat Sousa, who's here, who really has worked incredibly hard and really walked every one of the 173 spots that there are at the beach for parking. So I'm going to turn it over to Chaz to talk about the proposal.
Thank you, Pam. I want to apologize for my voice. I sound worse than I feel, so worry not. We started this difficult task knowing that there's no perfect solution. And so our task was to find the least bad outcome. We met twice as a group. We had numerous conversations and exchanges. Several of us drove around, walked around, looked at the options that we had additional to what the parking group had put together. For example, go along New Biddeford Road where the town's right-of-way is not wide enough, or we looked at whether spots for small cars might create extra spots to find the ones that we have to give up. Our main concern was safety, but it wasn't the only concern. Some members of the community, and indeed members of the safety group that I chair, believe that safety ought to be the only concern. But the recommendations I'm going to describe in a moment reflect the effort to steer in between the lines of the beach use agreement and to prioritize safety, but also with an eye to practical access to the beach and to the meager restroom facilities at the store and at the Tides Hotel. I'm pretty confident that the recommendations we have, or whatever you may adopt that's different, is not going to satisfy everybody. But there are safety challenges all along the beach. So the recommendations we have reduce concerns about parking near the marsh, but they create new issues at other spots. So let's look at the specifics. David, you can put up that chart. Go back to the chart if you would. This is a chart that shows the existing spots in the first column and the proposed ones, and then we'll get to the residents only later, but most of the 173 spots are unchanged. The only change is going to be that they're going to be numbered at some point, or I guess they won't be numbered, but they'll be demarked. But you can see here, well, I'll show this on the next map, it's easier to see. The next slide. So on this map, if you look at the bottom left corner, I'm sorry, look at the very top, and see the red line up there. Those are the dike road spots that we're losing alongside the marsh. And you've all seen the cars about to tip into the water there. And the other spot we're losing is on Kings Highway on the bottom right, where Bellevue and Kings Highway meet, and the parking spot there made it difficult for many vehicles to actually just make the turn. So those are the 7 spots that we're losing. So where are we going to find the 7 new spots, since we can't, to replace those? I should note that the earlier plan, at some point this fall, had us needing to find more than 7 spots, but as the parking group worked, we decided that some of the spots along New Bedford didn't need to change, and so we ended up falling down to 7. But the issue's not the 166 spots that are unchanged, but the 7 new ones. So on this map on the lower right, there's some of the new spots. The 4 green spots are on Kings Highway just west of the store. And there originally were 8 spots proposed here, and we cut that number in half. The concern the safety committee had about those was that they were, it's a part of the Kings Highway, there are pedestrians and bicyclists and 2-way traffic and no sidewalk, so that they were, cars turning to get into those spots would be a hazard. You know, we looked at a lot of options, and over time you might want to consider, for example, putting 4 spots at the pump house, but you know, they would have similar concerns about cars turning and backing, et cetera. And the fact is that, you know, they're with the landscape trucks parked alongside the road all over Goose Rocks are probably a bigger obstacle to traffic seeing and pedestrians than any parking spots we're going to create in this exercise. Moving on, you see on the, if you turn left onto Kings Highway from Dyke Road, there's 3 new spots we're proposing along King Highway between Dyke Road and Bartlett, on the ocean side of the highway, that have the potential benefit, because they are new spots, of slowing traffic that currently accelerates on that speedway. And they have, we have the benefit there of at least having a sidewalk on the opposite side of the road, so there may be fewer pedestrians having to navigate around those. And so those together are 7 new spots. The plan also calls for 18 existing spots to be made resident only. And this responds to the concern that people who live in town find it hard to get a spot at the beach during July and August because they're all taken unless you get there at the crack of dawn. So the 18 proposed resident-only slots, if we go to the next slide, this shows the west end of the beach, and the bottom left is the far end of the beach toward the Batson River. And that shows 4 existing spots that are going to stay the same. And then the photo on the right shows the proposed new slots, the 4 that we're creating, would create under this plan, that would be resident only. And then if you look at the next slide, this shows the other end of the beach. That's New Bedford Road coming down from the left. And here there are 10 existing spots that would also become resident only. So that on either end of Kings Highway, west of Dyke Road and east of New Bedford Road would be resident only and be marked with signs so that we don't get day users and non-resident users driving around looking for spots on those 2 ends of the beach. Those are the changes we arrived at, knowing that none of us are going to be fully happy with the outcome. Before I stop, though, I want to note that the spots we recommended here, or that you may adopt from any other plan, are only going to be as permanent as the paint on the pavement. Once implemented, we're pretty quickly going to learn whether we need to or can adapt to unexpected safety or traffic or enforcement issues. And that's my end of my presentation.
So you're going to go ahead and just, this is going to be temporary for a year, or then go back and look at it? Is that what you just said?
This is up to you.
Yeah. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. How did you calculate, how many handicap spots do you have, and how did you calculate them?
I don't know the
Oh,
answer to that,
that
John.
was, yeah, and I wanted, Lori will help me if I missed this, but this was before both of our time, but that is set in the beach use agreement already. Of the 173, I believe there are 4, but don't quote me, 5?
So the handicap spots are set by state law.
Right.
So it basically however many spots we have, so many have to
Right.
be handicapped, and that's how we've established them. We tried to keep them mostly by the handicap ramp. That's something Chief Sanford and I did while he was here. And then there's the one on Jeffrey's Way.
And the one by the store.
Yes,
So there's
and one by
4,
the
yeah,
store.
so
And the
there-
one by the store on the side of Dyke Road was, the shoulder was made wider so a ramp could come down.
Yeah, I don't know if that meets the current ADA and state law. The other, how many van accessible handicap spots are there?
We have one.
Okay, okay. Well, as long as somebody takes a look at it and makes sure that it meets the statute, I mean, because, I understand there's a beach use agreement, but I don't know that that supersedes federal or state law, right?
No, I mean, we usually use the state law.
Okay. Thank you, thank you.
Any other questions?
So, what are the thoughts in terms of signage for the resident only on both ends of the beach? Has there been any thought put into that?
No, I mean, I think the concept is that you're not gonna need, we don't want people turning left or right on either end going down there, but what that signage looks like, I would leave to someone that's a sign, that's not our purview. Hopefully the DPW or someone like that could come up with what that looks like.
So maybe at the entrances of those roads or? Okay.
Exactly. Maybe even on both sides, but it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's communication along with parking about where the residential, so it'll be that U shape down Dyke,
Right.
Kings Highway in that central area, and then back up New Bedford or down Bedford.
So just another question on the residents. Since we are not gonna be having stickers on our cars anymore, how will we know who's a resident, if a resident is parked there or not parked there?
Because it'll be by the license
License plate.
plate. So the
Residence
license plate will be registered, and then that data will be available to the parking enforcement officers.
So it has to be a car that is registered in Kennebunkport.
It doesn't have to be registered in Kennebunkport, but that registration will link to a permit, and then we'll see whether it's a resident permit or not.
But it has to be a taxpayer, basically a taxpayer in Kennebunkport, either a resident or a
Yes,
non-resident taxpayer, in order to get their license plate into the system.
correct.
Yeah.
And I just meant because we do taxpayers and not because you live here year-round.
Right.
It could be an out-of-state vehicle.
Exactly.
So I think the movement, I think the plan that you guys came up with is good. I think how you started it, Chaz, is good in terms of, well, I think there's, parking at the beach is hard. Any resident that has a parking space near, their area or whatever is dealing with that. I think we got some comments from people, about concerns about line of sight. Like, as you said, the landscaper vehicles are sometimes a little bit higher than normal cars. But we do hear that about the line of sight. So I think this is, what did you get back from the Beach Advisory Committee? What did you hear back from the members, the residents that showed up about the residential parking? What was their view on that?
I think they were generally favorable, though it wasn't a prolonged conversation. I think people were more focused on where spots were than the resident thing, but it's been favorable.
Okay. And have you received any other feedback from the community, from the people that go to your meetings about the plan that you guys have put forward tonight?
I haven't heard anything this week. I don't know if, I can't speak for everyone.
Well, this is different than what we looked at in January. So this is first, when it got sent out to us a couple days ago via email, this is the first time we've seen the revised plan from last month. So, I think you just said it. It doesn't matter where the parking spots are, the people that that live near those parking spots, if they're new ones, are probably not gonna be happy.
Well, and we have heard from folks that are.
In that area,
Adjacent
yeah.
to these areas, absolutely, and understandably.
Yep.
They're not happy. I would certainly choose not to have it either, but this was the best, least, or the least bad solution.
Sure,
that
sure.
we were facing, yeah.
And we've had reviews from fire
And
and
police,
police, right? And so
correct.
this, they both gave their
And
input,
also the town, Public Works.
Public Works and
Yeah,
Fire.
yeah.
I think this is really good because of the 18 spots for the residents. It's a long time in coming.
Yeah, one of the comments we did get was people thought that a lot of residents might come for 2 hours, and so you'd get more turnover. You'd actually get more people that could use the beach, because 4 or 5 people could use each one of those spots per day if they turned over, too. So I think it's a different time frame than people that come at 8 and stay till it gets dark.
And I think another important factor to note is that because of the suggestion request from the Beach Advisory Committee, it will be a full 3-way stop at the intersection of Dyke and Kings Highway.
Right.
So where folks would whip around those corners at speed, that legally will no longer happen. So the hope is that, when you're turning, they will see the cars there and they will drive accordingly.
And I think hopefully they have the opportunity to see the signs that say that, it's resident only going in either direction, so it heads them towards the center part where most of the parking spaces are.
Exactly.
The only cautionary note I would say on that is for the people in the rest of the town, if they go down there and they hear residents parking, and all those resident spots are taken by out-of-state plates, that is going to be, we will get negative feedback on that.
Well, I think we need to,
So it needs to either be
It needs to be
taxpayer.
educated,
Right,
yeah, there needs an education, that this is taxpayer, and very well they could be out-of-state plates. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the comments we got from some of the write-ins from some of our residents were about people will still try to park up Dyke Road in that area. But they, it's the same on a busy beach day, on a hot weekend, you have people parking. And so that's where our CSOs come in with the tickets. And
Right.
there's really, other than the tickets, we've talked about this numerous times, so we're not, I think a resident or somebody had requested maybe we look at some barriers, but I don't think we don't have any capabilities, nor do I think we would want to do
Yeah.
anything like that.
But we'll definitely have a clear sign saying no parking beyond this spot,
Right.
when you're going out Dyke Road, so that'll be clearly delineated. And they'll also be marked on the pavement, so it's going to be much clearer where these parking spots are. And
The
are not.
only thing I would add, John, is we've had that in the past where people were parking even beyond,
I know, yeah.
and is it gonna be enforced? And what happens when someone does park there?
They will get an immediate ticket, and we
But
do need to.
Can they be towed? Can they?
No, we talked about that
We've
with the
done-
board a couple times.
Yeah.
That it wasn't advised from the chief to go into a towing for liability.
You would have to call the tow company, and you'd have to
It's just
wait
the
with the
threat
car
of the
until
tow.
they showed up.
I'm just
So-
wondering, could we put a sign that says, subject to towing?
Well,
Even though we don't, I mean, just.
Well,
think
it's
about it.
subject, I mean, that's an interesting thought, we'd have to take a look at how that might be able to be done, Barry. It's a good thought, though, thank you. I would like to open it up for any comments from from folks here and from folks that might be on Zoom. Is that okay to do that now, are we good? Good.
Yeah, I just have one quick question. The net, though, is still the number of spots that's in the beach use agreement.
173.
173, that's the hard line, we're not adding or subtracting from that, because there was a number of emails, feedback that were concerned that we were gonna add or subtract from the 173, so.
No, we can't add,
Got it.
right.
Anyone present that would wish to address the board? Yes, would you please come, the mic's here, and name and address if you would.
Hi, Julianne Ambrose, 5 Dyke Road. I'm just curious about the 6 that are still on the marsh. I know it kind of drops off more after that, but there has been such a significant flooding issue there on the road. And so I'm wondering, you know, if anybody's considered that and the degradation to the marsh with those 6. My other question is, you know, I love the idea of the 18 for the taxpayers. I wonder how much it's going to be noticed or you know, how enforceable it is if we no longer have stickers. That's a bit of a concern. And I wonder if it's possible to do more than 18, but my biggest concern is the 6 that are still on the marsh. Thank you.
Yeah, that shoulder is it's very firm, and it's considerably wider than where we had to lose the spots. So our belief is that that will not degrade the marsh itself by having the parking 6 beyond the bridge. And again, in terms of the non-sticker, that's how everyone's going to be working. And the CSOs will be plugging in. It's a great system. You just start the license plate, and if it's in the system, it pops right up. And if it's not in the system, they get slapped. Yep.
Well, I hope they will be certainly encouraged to enforce the other 6 because, you know, I do think that's a.
They absolutely will be, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts on do we have any? Yes.
Thank you. I've got a few comments written down, so bear with me.
Sure, take it.
So my name is Arthur LeMay. My wife and I have owned a house on West Kings Highway, so just full disclosure. We've owned it for 26 years. We love Goose Rocks Beach. But we are quite disturbed at the safety issues on the roads and how it's exponentially changed over the last few years. I'm not sure everybody here is as aware because there's a lot of discussion about parking and all of these things, but I want to speak specifically about 4 of the 7 spots. I think I thought there was going to be a recommendation that the 4 spots on the west side of Kings Highway would be given some further consideration and a little bit of time to find other locations. I understand there's been chatter on Facebook. I'm not a Facebook person, but we've heard that there are many other options that could be explored. And I would strongly urge that both groups give a little bit of time to the subcommittee, the safety committee, the parking group, to look at those other options. I will say that my perspective here as a 41-year health care administrator, safety is always the #1 and the top priority. And I will say that those 4 parking spots on West Kings Highway present a safety challenge. I think it's known by anybody that has walked around that area that during the peak season, during the day, it's unsafe to even walk back and forth to the general store on West Kings Highway. There is no sidewalk. People walk on both sides. There's cyclists, there's contractors, there's vehicles. There's now motor scooters. It is a nightmare. And I just feel the obligation to go on the record to both of these groups that I think a little bit of time, give us a month, 2 months, to at least explore other options. To me, to say we're choosing the best of the bad options is just not acceptable. So I don't know what 2 months would really, how that might really bother. I don't think there's being repainting on the west side, maybe there is, of the roads
There will
on the
be.
west side. Yeah. But anyway, I ask for that. I do work on with Chaz's group, and we have an expert in transportation and engineering that sits on that group. He has looked at best practices. We've explored a number of options. We've presented to the Beach Advisory Committee about recommendations, and I have to say the Beach Advisory has supported most of those. The town has supported those, and the 3-way stop at Dyke Road and Kings Highway is one of those examples. But I'm just very concerned that safety needs to be considered by everybody. And it's not just the West Kings Highway folks. last beach advisory committee that I attended, we heard for 45 minutes feedback from residents that lived on New Biddeford Road about the speed bumps. I believe the recommendation from the public safety subcommittee was replace those speed bumps. It's a safety issue. The residents that live along that road said that those speed bumps slow people down. And yes, people speed up afterwards, but, you know, let's take a win when we can have a win. So I asked that the groups at least discuss a 2-month delay in those 4 spots. Let the right people consider the options that have been thrown out in the community, and let's just not act hastily. From my point of view, I think it's appropriate that we take the time. This is not peak season right now. We have a little bit of time. Let's face it, safety decisions are what define leadership. And I'd rather that a safe path, a safer path, be explored rather than an avoidable accident occur and the issues are forced. There had been parking spots on West Kings Highway before, and they were removed. And not only because of safety, but in part because of safety. So for you all to decide now to add those back in, I just think is the wrong decision on the short term.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, the individual you speak of, who I believe, you're speaking of Tom. When you speak, yeah, he was part of the select group that chose these spots. And we did look at several other options. And believe me, these were the least bad. And so thank you very much for that input.
Yeah, so I wish Tom were here to weigh in on this, but I think he would like to explore other options as well.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom?
We have 4 hands raised, 5 hands raised, 6 hands raised.
Stop counting.
Yeah. All right, start with number 1.
Maureen, you can speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Maureen.
Hey, so you guys.
Name, please, Maureen,
Great-
for the record,
Oh,
please, name and address.
Sorry, I should know better. Maureen Summers, Wildwood, in Goose Rocks section. I just want to say that I realize how long and what time and dedication that everybody has put in. And I know it's been probably well over a year, possibly even going into 2, to help make this decision. And it's very well noted how much time and attention has gone into this. And it's not an easy situation for anybody at this point. I'm sure people don't want it in front of their houses, and I understand all of that. And everybody's main goal is safety. So with that being said, I also think it's wonderful that there's going to be some parking, those 18 spots for residents. However, I would just like to add that if it was possible to either add more or to change some of them from 18 to 21 or redistribute, I think it would be nice to have some over by the area of the tides. And the reason I say that is because we do have that agreement with the tides to use the restroom facilities, which are very nice and clean facilities. And so some of the local folks would want to park over in that area to be able to use the nice bathroom facilities when they're coming down for the day. And if they pop in over there to, get something to eat or whatever. It's just a thought, maybe, to consider that too, because I know you're trying to keep it to the left and the right so that people aren't driving, I guess, through properties or private areas or whatever.
Well, it's not the
But,
private areas, Maureen. The reason for that was safety-driven. What we have seen on both ends of the beach, that when folks would drive down and find a spot, they would rush back in order to get their ticket and then rush back to the spot in order to park. and it becomes very dangerous, or at least the speed, we believe, is exacerbated by the fact that they are so far from the main ticketing point. So that was safety was one of the driving reasons to have the double benefit of residents, taxpayers having access to parking and being able to calm the speed issues that we see on both of those extremes. But
Yeah.
Chaz.
And John, am I correct as well that the residents and taxpayers can park anywhere on the beach, but the reserved spots are at the
Oh,
end?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, that's what I was asking, is there any way to add some of the current spots that are in the location on Kings Highway, in the location by the tides, to make a couple of them possibly for residents only, because of the fact that residents do attend that area of the beach as well. And they do like to use those facilities at the the bathrooms. They're nice and clean.
Sure.
So
No,
just trying to be thoughtful of other people that are coming in, that may not have access to the beach like we do. Be
I
able to walk.
appreciate that. Thank you, Maureen. Yeah,
Thanks. Have a great day. Thank
to
you.
you. Next.
Next, we have Mike Nash.
Hey there, thanks everybody, and thanks for all the hard work. This is Mike Nash. I live at 835 Kings Highway and proudly own no cars registered in the state of Maine. I have a comment, 2 questions, and a request. My comment is just listening to the discussion about things on the west end of Kings Highway and the concerns around safety. And I certainly think those are very real. On the other hand, there's significant safety issues east of Dyke Road, on the east end of Kings Highway. I think the decision to put a few spaces down there, while it may reduce the safety west of Dyke Road, I think it sort of balances out the overall safety across the entire population. And I think as a community, that seems like the fair and right thing to do, given the amount of safety issues that already exist east of Dyke Road. To my 2 questions, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the picture that, or I'm referring to the picture that I got in the handout, that shows Kings Highway east of Dyke Road and around Bellwood. And just east of Bellwood, I guess my first question is, are each one of those triangles intended to denote an individual parking space? So there's a correspondence between, sorry, I said triangle, between rectangle and parking space?
Yes.
Okay, so, and when you paint those out, it'll be really clear where the spaces begin and end?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that for the 2 spaces that are in blue just east of Bellwood, that's 2 spaces, even though it's a little bit blurry in the picture?
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
That's 2.
Yes, that's 2. Yep, they exist.
Okay.
Those are existing spaces.
Okay, but they'll be painted as 2.
Yes.
Okay, and just my request is, if you could just, if it's possible to note the fact that there's 2 spaces there on the minutes, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Again, thanks everybody for the hard work.
Yeah, you bet. Go ahead.
Next, we have Matt.
Matt.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, my name is Matt Jones. I'm at 773 Kings Highway. I spoke at the last meeting, and I'm going to speak again here. So I am vehemently opposed to the 4 spots that are going on the West Kings Highway side, and I'll reiterate my opposition. I think I've spoken to a few of you guys offline on this issue. To reiterate Art's point, the safety issue is going to be is front and center here. Again, 10 years ago, these spots existed when the road was lower. 10 years later, it's now raised. And you guys are saying you guys have police, you guys have fire, you guys have all these things. So what changed between the last fire guy that said it was unsafe and this fire guy that said it is safe? What changed from the last police chief that said it was unsafe? What changed from this police chief that's now saying it is safe? That makes absolutely 0 sense. Okay, that's the first point. Secondly, I have reiterated this, and I know Art has reiterated this as well in his comments. The safety issue is front and center. With the general store being in its current location, everybody flows into that general area. New Bedford Road, you guys have no clue. You guys are off the hook without having a general store at your end. If you guys want to compare apples to apples, let's put a general store at the end of New Bedford Road, and then we can compare apples to apples, okay? Because right now, that is not apples to apples in terms of the amount of people and the amount of spaces that are in that general area. But again, to reiterate the safety issue, you guys are now going to create an absolute logjam, people coming in and out of that area. And that is the focal point of Goose Rocks Beach, is where everybody comes, is in that specific area, is the general store. That road is utterly skinny. That road cannot accommodate those kinds of spaces. And Bill, you and I have talked about this offline, on the beach, when we do our walks and everything else. We have always said that unless those spaces can be completely off the road, which it doesn't sound like they are, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't sound like they are, then you now are going to create a logjam. So you're talking police vehicles, you're talking fire engines, you're talking ambulances trying to get through that specific area. Then you're also talking about an immense amount of people turning around at people's driveways. I see it all day. I see it all day long. Again, it took me hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix my problem of people turning around in my driveway. But this is going to be a problem all day long, from a safety issue and all these other things. On top of that, I would like to understand why it says in the agreement, and I've read this agreement from when it says 173 or 174 spaces, it says it's a maximum of those amounts. It doesn't say minimum, right? It doesn't say you can't reduce the spaces. I never read that. I would like to get legal counsel involved to say, hey, can we reduce this? Can we reduce the number of spaces? Unless that's been done, unless the committee has taken this from a legal standpoint and taken this and saying, why can't we reduce the number of spaces? And then just from an overall picture, like putting these spaces in front of people's houses, all you guys are going to be doing is angering so many people when there are other areas. And I agree with Art. To sit here and say this is the best bad option, that's just basically throwing up your hands and giving up. To not find a better solution than doing something that has already been done and we know hasn't worked, because if it did work, they'd still be there. And they're not there. They were removed for a reason at the time. So now all of a sudden we're going to put them back, and I've had so many cars in that area almost hitting my kids, almost hitting my dogs. It's crazy. People pulling out of driveways. So I can attest to it because I live 2 blocks or 2 houses away from that general store, and I see it every single summer. You guys might not see it, but I do. And I know Art sees it. I know my neighbors around it, the Sautiers see it. Everybody sees it. And this is a bad idea to put these spaces where you guys are proposing it. And I agree with Art that there should be more time given. The other spaces seem credible and seem okay, but there should be more time given to try to find a better solution. And just saying, we're just going to go with the best bad idea, that's just giving up. That's just throwing up your hands and trying to ram this thing through so you guys can go move on to the next issue. But that is an unacceptable answer. So clearly I'm upset about it. And I know a lot of people, the people that you're going to put those spaces in front of, I'm sure they're going to be upset too, unless you've actually contacted them to let them know about this. But you guys are going to do whatever you want. You're not, and in closing, you guys should be doing what's best for the community and listening to what everybody has to say. Right now, there is not any listening going on here. There's a lot of opposition to this, and you guys are just trying to ram this thing through without trying to find a better solution. So, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Next we have Linda and Stephen Kramer.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Linda Kramer. I'm at 832 Kings Highway. I live opposite Mike, who spoke a little bit ago, and I don't want to reiterate everything he said, but I agree with everything what Mike had said. I just feel that Matt is very angry. It's kind of changed what I was going to say. He is quite angry, but he has no idea what the East End goes through. And maybe we should put parking on from one end to the other and let everybody see what it's like to have parking. I am inviting anyone that would like to come and sit on our front porch at 8:32 and watch the traffic. There are numerous cars that come up on the curb at our corner. It doesn't look like a corner unless you're driving, and so many cars come up, it scares the heck out of us sitting on that front porch. So sidewalks aren't always the safest. But my suggestion is not speed bumps, but maybe speed humps. Out here in Western Mass, they have a lot of speed humps. The plows know how to go over them. They're great. It's a big hump and it makes you slow down, I'll tell you. And they're permanent. They're not a temporary thing. I, again, just want to say thank you to the people. I have seen you walking the roads. I could tell what you were doing, measuring. It's been a lot of hard work, and I totally appreciate and I understand you're doing the best that you can.
Thank you. Appreciate the
Thank you.
support.
Next we have Joe.
Hi, Joan, you can speak.
Oh, okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Joan O'Connor, and I live at 737 Kings Highway. And these spots would not be in front of my house, however, they'd be up the street. And my concern is public safety. And I think I'm a very good person to speak about this in that I have lived for 20 years across the street from the pump house and the Porta-John. So I have a bird's eye view. My porch is there, my kitchen sink looks out there, and I see what happens every day. And the problem on those 4 spots hinges on their close proximity to the Porta-John. And let me explain. Every morning, there's a parade, intermittent parade of families, kids on scooters, kids on tricycles, kids on bikes, teens on their own. You know, as you know, they go up and down every morning and every evening to the general store. On top of that, every morning at the same time, all the service trucks pull up. They start coming down the West End. You've got contractors, landscapers, electricians, plumbers, and everybody uses that porta potty. This porta potty is hardly used by a beach person. Nobody walks to that porta potty. They all go to the general store. However, every FedEx guy, every UPS truck, they all know it's there, and they all park there and stay there for a while. Some of them just look at their cell phones. I can see them. Also, we've got the guys that service the pump house that are there quite often. And twice a week, we have the Porta-John being cleaned out for a half hour. So imagine this. You've got the 2-lane narrow road, which, as you know, as someone said, has been lifted. So it's even narrower. You're going to have all these little kids running around. The parents are always yelling for them, come back, come back. Cars are going both ways. You've got all those big trucks parked there half the time. And now you want to put 4 spots where there's no sidewalks. This is going to be a disaster. I'm telling you, even when I park and pull out of my driveway, I look back and forth 6 times before I back into that road. So when you have people using those spots, they're going to drive west first. And then what are they going to do? How do they get in those spots? They have to turn around in someone's driveway and back out. And that porta potty pump house driveway is not always free for them to turn around in. And then when they park in those spots, guess what? They're parking right in front of the culvert. So the passenger person is going to open his door and fall practically into a ditch. So you've got a lot of, liability happening there that you don't really know you're creating. and it's very unsafe. And I watch it all day long from my porch and kitchen window, and I'm really worried. It's very dangerous to put those cars there. The road, if those cars are going to take up a third of the road, where are these other cars going back and forth, especially with the kids? It's, you know, it's more of a pedestrian walkway half the time. So I agree with the last two gentlemen who feel like it's very unsafe. It's very unsafe, and I think you really need to think about it. And I'd be more than welcome to have you put a camera on my garage so you could study it for next summer. And not to mention the fact I've been documenting this for at least 10 years and have an album of photos on my phone that shows how many different types of trucks sit there. And I have movies too, if you'd like to see those. So that's about what I have to say. It's not affecting my house, but it's just really not, I don't really think it's a smart spot to put those at all. There's no sidewalks. It's very unsafe. Someone's going to get hurt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Cliff.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I had sent a pretty detailed email.
Cliff, I'm sorry, for the record, could you please introduce yourself and where you
Sure,
live?
John, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Cliff Mix, 797 Kings Highway. My driveway is the second driveway on the right when you turn east on Kings Highway. I had sent a pretty detailed email to all the members of the select board, complete with photographs about my concerns, and I will not, reiterate all those. But these last three people that have spoken are 100% correct. We experience the same thing heading east. Yes, we have a sidewalk. People do not use the sidewalk. In the morning, in the evening, there is a parade of families. Kids on bikes, kids on in wagons and strollers, e-bikes going well over the speed limit. That whole, I would say 50 to 75 yards in either direction on Kings Highway. Again, because of the general store, they do a wonderful job, but they attract everybody. It is a mass of humanity every day in that, I'd say 50 to 75 yards in either direction on Kings Highway. The two spots you're proposing at the end of my driveway, I understand you need parking, I get it. But that is so heavily traveled. When I'm trying to get out of my driveway, I can't see to get out of my driveway as it is. CMP put in a massive utility pole looking towards the Dyke Road side of it. I can't see that intersection. You put two parked cars there, I won't see anybody coming the other direction. Meanwhile, you have this parade of people every day going to the store, coming home from the store. Yes, we have a sidewalk. People don't use it. The other issue for me is personal to me and my family. My wife is legally blind. She uses a guide dog or she uses her cane. She walks around our property with her guide dog, including the driveway. I already have cars pulling into my driveway, doing a 3-point turn on my lawn, turning around and going head out. My wife's out there with it. We're going to have people pulling in our driveway and turning around all day long. Because if they're coming from the tide's end and they spy those two spots, where do you think they're going to turn around to grab those spots? They're going to pull in my driveway. And that is a safety issue for me personally. But the bigger, I feel like you guys are rushing into this. Like the first gentleman said. I feel like there's been very little dialogue here. And now you have this revised plan, which you're considering voting on tonight, which is the first time anybody's hearing about the revised plan. I just think you're rushing into this, and the safety issues within 50 to 75 yards of that intersection are already tremendous. And you need to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Rob, you can, yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, Rob Wingle, 873 Kings Highway. This is not a short-term solution, and it's going to be unconventional and outside the box. But I'd encourage the town to consider buying the Ocean Woods Resort property and making that into parking, maybe a little park or something there as well, and reducing the parking along Kings Highway as much as possible through the capacity that you could get from Ocean's Woods. So that doesn't solve this season, but it would be, we have a dilapidated building that's rotting, and that could be a parking where people backing in and out, parallel parking in the middle of a crowded beach community by reducing lots of spots along Kings Highway and making that public parking.
I appreciate that thought. As you say, Rob, that's something for future consideration.
And will you consider?
I just did. But yeah, again, Rob, we'll see where this goes. Right now, we're addressing the issue of what we do this year. Anything else?
That's it.
Thanks so much.
No more hands raised.
Alrighty. Any other discussion? Yes, Pat.
Pat Souza, 19 Crescent Ave. I just want to make a couple of comments because I want everybody to know this isn't something that just happened like a month ago or 2 months.
I think you got to speak.
Sorry. We have been working on this since last May. It's unfortunate that people are just now getting into it. Safety is a concern for me. I was a hospital administrator also, and safety is important. And I said that from when I joined this committee. That was the biggest thing for me. And I have walked everywhere down here. And I think it's hard because we have people who haven't experienced, and I hate to go East End and West End, I really do, because we're a community here, okay? And there is a lot of traffic on the East End. We're overpopulated there. Summertime comes and just people, I walked down that street because I lived on Belvedere at one point, right by the tides. And every time I went to the beach, there's cars turning around, there's kids on bikes. We've had those problems since I've been here, 2013. We kind of had dealt with it. People try to slow down. People get out of their cars and they don't walk on the sidewalk because they want to go to the beach. They're on that side of the ocean side. So they walk down the street. I see people do it. I offer to help people with their wagons, with people, can you go on the sidewalk? I try to encourage people. So it's just a natural thing. People don't always use the sidewalks. I hear everybody has concerns. I don't want to say everybody's concerns aren't valid here. All down Kings Highway, there isn't a house on Kings Highway on New Bedford that people aren't parked out front of their houses. I know it's hard for someone to really understand that all of a sudden now there's going to be some cars in front of your house and it's going to be an inconvenience for you. But all those people down Kings Highway, New Bedford, they're on their lawns. I'm like astonished sometimes. But there's nothing else. There's nowhere else for us to go. I've looked. I've walked with Pam. I've walked several times. I had my tape measure out. I measured roads. This isn't something that I think was done overnight. This is something I think this committee has taken unbelievable 10 months working on this. And yes, you may think it's just now, but it's been on the agenda. We've been talking about it. We've been meeting. We've done updates, Pam and I, every week. It's unfortunate people are just finding about it now, but this isn't something we've just done. I want people to understand that. This isn't something that no one thought about, and we didn't put a lot into it. Yes, it's an inconvenience for people. Yes, it affects safety, but even the safety down the Kings Highway on the East End you may not see it because you're not there all the time, but it's tremendous. When I first came here, I think the first meeting I came to here, I said, well, why don't we make that a one-way street during the 10 weeks? And my God, did I get shot down. But I see that, on some of the beaches I'm from Massachusetts, I can say that, not now, I'm a resident of Maine, been a resident here for 6 years, and, because I love it here. But there are beaches who will do that. And it was like, people don't like change. Change is hard to accept. But I say, we're gonna put some speed signs up. Which can actually, maybe for next year, look at how much traffic really goes to the West End, especially once we put the new signs up that say taxpayers only residents. Maybe you're gonna notice a big change in the traffic down there because people aren't gonna go down there because there's no parking, okay? You got people who are gonna know that. So that could be less traffic for you down that end, and hopefully down the other end also. But I'm just saying there are some good things to it. I mean, we're gonna do some resident parking. I just want you to know that I feel that I put my heart and soul into this, and I think the committee did too. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Any other comments from the, yes?
Just a couple things. The three-way stop at the store hopefully will help.
I think tremendously.
Anyone who lives down the west end of the beach, either they walk or they ride or drive their cars, know that during the summer, when there's people in the crosswalk, a majority of the cars coming down Dyke Road stop now. But with a demarked, a stop sign there, it's going to slow everybody down, I hope. I also would like to point out that the 4 spots that are down the west end were 8 spots a month ago. So that's a pretty big change. The spots that were left were the ones farthest from the intersection, based on safety. And, everything this committee has done, and I wasn't involved, but everything this committee has done, eliminating the spot at the end of Bellwood, has been I've looked at that spot causing people to, just like Sue Kramer said, causing people to drive up on the sidewalk because it's stuck out almost, just stuck out too far. So they've done so much work, and it's hopefully going to be safer for everybody. The spots down there, I said it before, I was hoping everybody could, somehow we could get the car, all 4 tires off the street, but apparently there's not, off the pavement, so that it wouldn't infringe on what the limited space we already have. The good news is there's no driveways across from those because they are just opposite the marsh, so there's not going to be people turning around right there to try and grab those spots. I haven't heard, is there going to be a plan for turning around at the pump station?
At the pump station,
Okay.
yeah.
So that, I don't think that was
That'll be
explained
marked.
either, so, yeah.
That'll be marked.
So,
Thank you,
yeah,
Bill.
just, it's not ideal. There's the spots, none of the spots on the east end of Kings Highway would be considered safe by a safety person, but.
Any other thoughts from the committee?
I think I would just like to address the, work that we've done. We looked at 10 or 12 other options. There was no shortage of ideas that were out there, and we talked to the DPW. We've walked a lot of the spots and looked at where there really are viable spots. And I think, as Pat said, a lot of work has gone into this, and I think we're putting forth our best ideas. And as Chaz said, I think, it's only as long as the paint lasts, and I think we've got to put it down and start somewhere. I think the resident spots, I think delineating each spot so you don't have someone coming in and taking 2 spots because they don't know where the one spot is. I think these are all improvements. Is it perfect? I don't think there is a perfect solution here that everyone is going to walk out and say, oh, this is fabulous. But I think this is the best given the options that we have to work with.
Thank you, Pat. Any other comment from the board?
I wouldn't mind doing this as long as we can come back and look at it next year.
Absolutely. I think the resident parking the same way. We'll see how well they're used. I mean, we need to be sure that, we'll keep track of that, the data on, how often the parking spots are empty or, so this will all be a matter of iteration to get to the best solution.
Go
ahead.
I also, I'm very concerned by the safety aspects, and shifting a hazard from the east end to the west end doesn't seem to me to be a solution. I didn't realize, and I'm new at this, that maybe it's time to look at, do we really need 173 spaces? Is it feasible with the, maybe, cars have gotten bigger, beach traffic has increased, and if there's an ability to go back and look at the beach use agreement and, eliminate some spots.
Well, my understanding is the 173 was a compromise. It was a compromise between what were the elements on the beach that wanted to limit parking as much as possible, and the residents in town that wanted to have some chance of finding a place to park. So that's where that number became. So
I got it, but the document says minimum. I mean, it doesn't say minimum, right?
No, it says max.
Maximum.
Max, that's
So a maximum is a ceiling.
That's
And if
true.
it's become a safety hazard, maybe it's a time to look at what's a safe ceiling.
Well, the safety is compromised across every parking space there. So the ceiling, safe ceiling, I mean, all of every one of them going down has the potential, they're close to driveways.
Sure.
People need to come out. I mean, this is not unique. These safety concerns are not unique to these new spots. They exist everywhere that we have to park on the beach. So that's the issue.
I still think taking a look long-term, what is a sustainable number of parking spots? Hey, I'm a resident and I like to go to the beach too, but what's the cost of easy parking if it's,
We can certainly put that on the,
Yeah.
I mean, certainly take a look at it.
Okay.
I would agree with that, yeah.
That's it?
I'm going to agree with what Alan and some of the members of the committee have said. It's probably not the best answer, but I think a lot of work has gone into this. I think we can look at it for the first year. I'm kind of thinking we have something else going on in town that might be a first-year
For
look.
first-year look, yeah.
And so, there are probably some maybe longer-term solutions that need to be looked at or could be explored. Mr. Wengel's comment that maybe there are other options. They're not going to be resolved for this year, but we need to do something for this year. And so I would support all the work that they've done. I know that there's been back and forth. So if it doesn't work, it can be re-examined and changed next year.
Any closing thoughts, Mary Beth?
No, Carol has a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol.
I'm Carol Sherman, and our sons own home at 813 Kings Highway. And they're going to have a new parking space put in front of their home. I called them and told them they were going to have a space, and they said, it is what it is. So they have no problem. Yeah, I've been there for 80 years. I have a little problem having a parking space there personally. But none of it's going to work if we don't have enforcement. And we can do all the planning we want, but we have got to have enforcement. And I'm going to say it again and again. That's what we need, is the enforcement. And I'm all for the plan. I think Pat and everybody else worked really hard. And, they are willing to say it's not perfect, which is a really nice thing to say. And they're good, smart people. They did the very best that they could for everybody. And I'm all for that, even though the parking space is in front of my old home.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, so I think I agree with the other select board members that this will be a good thing to try for this year. I think, I'd like to address some of the comments to the board from some of our residents about the safety. I don't think anyone on this board or anyone on the committee, either on the committee for this or on the Goose Rocks Beach committee, takes safety lightly. I think you heard that from everyone. And I really do want to address that point because I think part of being at the beach in the summer, for somebody that's down there on the East End in the summer, is you just sort of acknowledge where you're living. And what would take me 3 minutes to get to Route 9 takes me 10, from my house out to Route 9. And it is just what it is because it is summer. I'm fortunate to be down at the beach. I'm fortunate to have this opportunity in my life. But then I do know in this time, it's a take it slow as you go. And, if we open up this type of thing, there is, I can understand that the general store is bringing people in But if I look at the disparity or the difference between the east end and the west end, and if I count the spots, there's a lot more spots on New Bedford Road, and then on the east side of Kings Highway, going over a little bridge, down on Jeffreys Way, and then just a little bit over. So these are all the people that would be flown down through Jeffreys Way. And I don't think we do have people drop off in the middle of the road of Jeffreys Way, Kings Highway, and New Bedford there. So there is it's not that I'm not hearing the safety concerns, and I know the committee has thought through this. I just think that this is tough. So I thank you for the work you did in the beginning, the 10 months of work and looking at all options. I believe with the rest of the board that this is probably the best that we can do right now. Being an East Ender, I was sad to see that there wasn't more slots moved over to the West End. Just kidding. No, not really kidding. No, a little kidding. But I think that's just something, so I'm there, John.
All righty, can I entertain a motion, please?
If you're still accepting public comment, we have a hand raised again.
Certainly.
Joan, you can speak.
Yes, hi. I'm a person that lives across from the pump house again.
Hi,
I was
Joe.
wondering how will you go about evaluating whether or not those 4 spots are indeed safe or not safe? Are you going to have cameras put up?
I really haven't,
I don't think we can't.
We're not, I don't believe we're allowed to by law.
yeah, I don't think we're
But I
allowed,
don't think we're necessarily, I wouldn't say that I would have taken the year, so correct me if you guys think differently, but I think this year is more about seeing the 18 spots on both ends that are now residents only, and see how that impacts both the Kings Highway west of Dyke and Kings Highway east of New Bedford Road. How does that impact the flow of traffic on both those ends? And just see what enforcement can do in terms of making sure that those are residents only, seeing what the change on Dyke Road brings in terms of moving those spots off of a very dangerous area, parking not into the marsh, and how we can control it. So I think that's more of what we're looking at. I don't think we don't have a safety measurement
no,
per
we
se.
have the monitoring of the speed, so the speed signs will allow us to collect data. There will be one right after the pump station, so we'll have a record of how people are moving there, but that'll probably be how we'll do it the best we can, Joe.
Oh, so like, for instance, I could put a camera on my garage that would go look at the street there, and you can see how many trucks pull up there and idle, how many little kids are coming by on their scooters, and how many people are walking into the middle of the street to go around the 4 cars that would be parking there.
Yeah, well, but I will reach out to you and we'll discuss further. Thank you for that thought.
Okay, I have photos too and movies in my phone if you'd like to see anything from the last 10 years.
So you'd mentioned, thank you. All righty, can entertain a motion, please?
So I'll make a motion to, they didn't give us a cheat sheet. So I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from the Goose Rocks Beach Committee on the movement of 7 parking spots to the locations as noted in the presentation.
I have a first.
Second.
First and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? We have a 4-1. Thank you.
Oh, did you want to talk? Did you want to discuss more?
What?
Did you want to discuss more?
I just am going with my gut on
Okay,
this.
yep,
And
nope.
I think there are some considerable safety concerns.
All righty. We will now just ask if there's any other business.
I have none.
Yep. Joe, any other business?
No, none here.
Alan?
No, I'm all set.
I'm all set.
Then if you would close your meeting, we will close ours.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and second, all in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned.